Here's to you, dear listeners, and welcome to Metal Gear Mondays, the most thorough Kojima podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Sam Wright, and we're here to talk more Death Stranding. You know, the good stuff. But before we get started today, I have to introduce to you my friends, my rogues gallery, my co-hosts, starting with Cole Duncan.
Also known as Mr. Beat the Gameman. How are you, buddy?
He finally did it.
Yeah, look at me. I actually did something
a heathen no longer.
Yes.
He finally is a man. We can be King Narc himself.
I'm not a game narc. I am no longer a delivery boy. I am a deliveryman.
Game Narc, is that what you do the cheat codes on?
No, yeah. Actually, you got to go buy it from you have to ask your mom for like the money to go to Walmart and pick it up, and then you got to open up the PlayStation to use it. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole.
I know
big
someone who
deal.
could definitely tell you about it though.
Oh, would that be our next host?
Yeah, probably the actual narc of this entire podcast.
I'm gonna assume you're talking about Mr. Zach James. He's under protest.
I'm not a narc, Billy. You're the Billy. I mean, you're the narc, Billy.
Oh, hey, man. And, yeah, hello.
How you doing, guys?
Good. Good to have you back, as always.
Happy to be here.
And our final host, somebody who's innocent in all of this, Mr. Chris Hampton.
Blessings and salutations, children.
Actually the most innocent person on this podcast.
The only sweet angel baby we fucking have on this show.
Yeah. It's because he's the biggest fucking
so nice.
Right now.
Yep.
That's so nice of you to say.
Old Saint Chris over here.
Mr. 8 out of 10, sweet baby angel, Chris Hampton.
Billy.
God damn it. So we're we want to get right into the action, but we have one little piece of information that we need to discuss in a little segment we like to call the news. It's time for news. Death Stranding. Yeah! So, in case you bince not knowing, there's going to be a pretty significant update to Death Stranding coming in mid-December. As you are listening to this, it is, I believe, if my calendar will work, December 9th, so we might probably be a ways away from this update. If not, you're probably experiencing it now, and that's awesome. But if so, news. They're going to be doing some cool quality of life improvements, such as if you don't like small font, they're given the ability to increase the text size of the menus, which is very nice. Menus, emails, things like that. And they're also doing a couple of in-game stuff that have been commonly requested, but they're doing... What are they doing, Chris? They're letting you dispose of vehicles, I think is one of the things. What does that mean?
Yeah, I assume it's you can recycle things in the game right now.
So you can do that with vehicles.
But you can only have so many vehicles, right? You can only have 2, I think, right now. So if you want to have a regular bike and a long range bike in a truck, I think the way it is now is wherever you build, the thing that's the oldest gets just shuffled out, and it's gone forever, and you lost all the resources that you used to build that thing. Mm-hmm. So,
but now you have the ability to get that stuff back.
How about an option to turn off the freaking unnecessary slow-mo? I don't need a cutscene every time I'm grabbing a bug or every time it starts to rain.
Zach, you were the guy last time who couldn't wait 3 minutes for Hartman to come back.
No, and you know what, Chris? I stand by it.
The more I learn about you, the more I feel you're an impatient.
Tell you what, Chris, in my next book, I'm going to dedicate a chapter that's nothing but a guy describing his own farts for 30 pages. Dedicated to you, my friend.
Jesus Christ.
And you know how much time is going to elapse in the real world?
I'll read the fuck
3 minutes.
We only got 4 minutes to save the world. It's back. I did it again. I did it a fucking again. Handle it. But yeah, so this update is going to be, so there are, I think, a couple of other features they are planning to include in the update, but the vehicle one and the text one are the only ones that they've announced. But apparently, the update will likely address other common requests. We're just not sure which ones they are. How about a portable music player?
Yeah, that'd be dope. Little iPads, little iPod, little MP3 player.
iPod.
I want to listen to Low Roar right here.
Low Walkman.
Yeah.
Maybe patch out chapters 10 and 12.
Oh God, listen. Okay, calm down, Rocky. We're gonna get there.
I don't even know.
Let's check it.
But yeah, look for that update coming in mid-December. There was one that released recently that was like a bug fix, I think, but there's going to be a bigger one coming in mid-December, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I think that's all we have for the news as far as I'm aware. Gentlemen, are there any objections to jumping into our discussion today?
Let's get it.
Let's get this bread, boys.
Fun, keep it on.
Is that the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
It's hard when you come to realize someone's path is headed elsewhere in life. So babe, you walk your way, I'll walk mine. But I'll stop to think of you from time.
So we are. The thing about the episodes in the chapter is in this game is that they kind of bleed into each other. So there's not, we don't really know specifically like where does episode 9 end and where does episode 10 begin. So just to be safe, I divided it up like this. So in theory, we might still be talking about episode 9 a little bit, but all of the stuff that's happening here feels like it belongs in episode 10 personally. So we're going to pick up from where we left off, which was, we beat Higgs, and Fragile's got a gun, and some bad things may happen to Higgs. And so after all this bad stuff happens, Sam walks up to Amelie, and she asks him what took so long, and he puts her kipu back on her, and then Fragile walks up with Higgs's mask, and this might be my favorite line in the game. She says, "I brought you a metaphor," which is so fucking on the nose. I can't be mad at it.
I just love that line. That was worth the price of admission.
It really was. It was so phenomenal. Like I can't be mad at it. It's just I brought you a metaphor, cryptic metaphor. But she wants Sam to take the mask and use it to like tell the mules and like the people with this Porter syndrome, like, this is what happens when you hide behind a mask. And Sam is like, no, it's better if they hear it from the woman herself. And then Fragile also reveals that she brought Lou with her, and Lou seems very happy. And Fragile asks where she can send them, and Amelie is not impressed. And she kind of steps in.
Very, very jealous-like in this moment.
It's super weird, being that she's his sister. But yeah, so she kind of steps in and says that since the chiral network's all connected, they can jump east together. And Sam is trying to be a little bit nicer, and he goes, "Look, we appreciate what you've done for us, and but we're good for now. And you're needed back at Fragile Express, and who would be better to scoop all the pieces and put them back together?" And that they wouldn't want to settle on anything less than perfection. No, that's what she says. So she says that who would be better to scoop up the pieces and put them back together? We wouldn't want to settle on anything less than perfection. And she kind of gets really upset and walks away and says that they're squared and that there's nothing owed and nothing left to say. And then Amelie is like, "We still have work to do."
Total passive aggressive move on Fragile's part.
A little,
very,
yeah,
yeah.
They're both being extremely passive aggressive in this moment.
Yeah, it's very catty.
What's in for?
Like it's not
for no reason. Is it being catty? That's the thing.
Right. And the thing of it is, like...
It did kind of come out of nowhere. Just like, hey, we're good, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's wrong? Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just don't... And maybe someone can, enlighten me. Why is there animosity between Fragile and Amelie in this moment? I mean, Fragile legitimately helped Sam get to her to, ultimately, finish what he started or finish what she started.
Because Amelie's a bad lady.
We're not doing this on this episode, okay?
No, we're doing it.
We don't know if she's a bad lady, Zach.
I think it's kind of a clue that Fragile might know something about the situation that we don't know.
Yeah, that Amelie's bad.
And like it's a choice, right? And normally, like when you're playing a video game, it presents you with a choice of like you could do this thing or you could do that thing. But in this game, the choice is made for us. It's like we could go with Fragile and go back and help everybody, or we could go with Amelie.
And the game is like, we're going with
You're
Amelie.
You're going with Amelie.
Yeah. This game doesn't give you a lot of choices.
This game gives you the illusion of choice. I just think it's times.
Yeah, I just think it's so weird how they chose to square it up, though. Like we said, is because it's like there's no reason for Amelie to be like this. Like it was very much like a girlfriend not liking like a female friend type of situation.
Yeah.
It felt very weird.
Fragile showed up and Amelie was like, "Hold my key poo. Hold my key poo."
But it was very weird. But Fragile walks away, and Sam kind of hesitates a little bit, and Amelie's just like, do you even still believe in me? And that she is still a walking time bomb even without Higgs. And she's like, I can end it all just like that, but that's what it's what I always wanted, was for everybody to be one. And Sam kind of asked her if all of this was for her, for Bridget, and Amelie says it's for their country and their future. And Amelie tells Sam that when he was back east, she slipped out of the beach and went to visit him. And Sam gets a little upset and asks if she lied about everything, and asks if she knew what it took for him to get there. And then she says that if she didn't lie to him, he wouldn't have come, and that they knew that he would cross the country and build the UCA for her, and it was Die-Hardman's idea to do it.
Which is understandably fucked up.
Yeah,
man,
that's shady as shit.
You could get out, really? Like, that's bullshit.
Sam shows up to the beach. He's like, I'm finally here. And she's like, oh, that's great. This is my boyfriend, Chet. What's up, dude? It's only like one step removed from that.
Yeah, it's so fucking shady.
It's
and I can't, like,
shady.
I just like when she said that, I sat back and I was like, excuse me?
And also, can we just remark real quick when you first initially made her, and she's like, "What took you so long?" I'm like, I walked across the fucking country. That's what took me so fucking long.
For you!
See, I sat back and went, this bitch.
This bitch.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on. No, hey, nice to see you again as well. How have you been? Oh, great. Me? Oh, fantastic. I just walked through literal hell to get here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Outstanding commentary from Chris Hampton, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It is.
It
is super frustrating. It's like you're being chastised for having played the game incorrectly or something. Like, no, you did it wrong.
You're doing it exactly the way that they want you to, and it's
I mean, we were basically speed running it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going fast. We were like Sonic, baby. Gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast.
But after she says this to Sam utters what might be I'm hard pressed to say best line, but like
it's up there, that's for sure.
It's a good one.
It's pretty up there. Sam goes that so Sam says, so I'm Mario and you're Princess Peach.
But then, to which
and my fucking God, I paused the cutscene because I could not stop laughing.
But then Amelie responds with what might be the worst line in the video game.
There's a little bit in between those two lines before we get there. I just need to express something. So I think it was back before we started the coverage. Me and Alessio were talking about the character trailers, and they had that episode where they introduced the Preppers and Ludens fan Jeff Keighley. And we were talking about Jeff Keighley. Mr. Keighley has a propensity to say Mario instead of Mario when he's talking about Mario. And Alessio was like, I swear to God, if I hear Jeff Keighley say Mario in this video game, I'm going to be so mad. And I said, why would there ever be a reason for anybody in this game to say Mario? It was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I could not fucking believe it. I was so giddy and like upset and like every emotion that exists in the spectrum. I felt in that moment.
I want to be a fly on the wall when like the directing came into play in that scene. They're like, all right, so Norman, you have your lines ready? And he's just like, am I really about to fucking say this? Like, this is someone got paid to write this, right?
Well, no, it was Hideo Kojima who wrote it. As the credits will tell you 57,000 times.
I don't know. I think it's kind of clever.
I thought the Princess Peach thing was funny as hell.
Yeah.
The next one I didn't like.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you there. I was like, Princess Beach.
Yeah,
Chris, you ruined it.
Oh, I ruined it.
I rolled my eyes so hard with that, I fucking almost went blind. I had to start wearing glasses again.
So after this line, Sam says that he never really gave a shit about the country and had no ties to anyone or anything but her. And then she apologizes and said that it all worked out in the end. And then after this, you hear a gunshot in the distance, and you kind of presume that Fragile has finally done the business with Kiggs. And Amelie redirects the conversation from that gunshot to, she says, Amelie knows that he has questions, but she wants to save them for after. And Sam agrees to this and asks how they're supposed to get back. And she says the beach runs the whole way and that they're just going to have to run along the beach. Like, Zach,
like
Mario and
Princess Beach.
Fuck me, fuck off.
Oh my God.
Also, just an aside, that bitch ain't running along a beach in those heels.
No.
Running along a beach in shoes is hard enough. I
love this like Chariots of Fire scene.
Oh my God!
I laugh my ass off during this when it does the cut back to Sam.
They're just
oh my God,
smiling at each other in slow mo.
Well, the best was because
the most Norman Reedus has smiled in his entire fucking life, bro.
Well, also the fact that like Amelie's running and she's all like pristine and all that, and then it cuts back to
slow motion.
Then it cuts back to Sam. I don't know about you guys, but my Sam was fucked up. Like his one eye was swollen shut. His like he was covered in blood.
Yeah,
he's giving like this like half-assed, crooked like stroke smile. It's like I'm happy to be here. I was expecting like dun 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 to kick in.
I'm shocked it didn't.
I would have fucking given this game a 10 out of 10 if he did that.
He had actually gotten the rights to it.
Man, this should have been the ending, honestly.
Just a slow
Chariots of Fire.
Just a
credits,
slow fade.
The end.
Yeah, just a slow fade to black.
Oh my God. Honestly, yeah, like Chris said it earlier, this whole like situation was worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
Because it's so goofy, but like honestly,
this is peak Kojima.
I kind of it's peak Kojima. I fucking love it.
I was just about to say, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you expect from a Kojima game.
Yeah. A Kojima game means goofy shit like this.
Pretty much.
In the middle of a very dramatic situation.
Did you say nerd?
Like, listen. It's sandwiched between a very dramatic moment, which is A, Fragile presumably killing Higgs, and then B, what we're about to talk about next. And it's just like super, and maybe it's there for a reason to like ease the tension a little bit, but like, I don't know. This shit was buck wild in the midst of like all this crazy
it just swings from one extreme all the way to the other and then back.
Oh yeah. So after this Baywatch run, they stop at this like mountain, and Amelie tells Sam to wait there, and she kind of climbs the rocks, and Sam's like waiting there for a second, and he's like Baby Yoda, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. And so he goes anyway, and then in the distance he sees somebody in a white suit talking to Die-Hardman. And it zooms down into the conversation, and Die-Hardman's like, he calls her President Bridget Strand. He says he finally gets invited to her beach, and then he holds a gun out at her and asks if she remembers, and says that it's the same gun as before, and now he's using it to make things right, and that she was supposed to make the world whole and not fuck it all up. And then she tells him to get on with it and grabs the gun, and he yanks the gun away and then fires at her, and nothing happens. And this is Bridget, like it's not Amelie.
Yeah,
this is Bridget.
Full on.
Yeah, and she says there's no atonement for them, and then you kind of like look out to the water, and there's Cliff's skeletons kind of rising away, and then Die-Hardman sees Cliff, and he cannot believe himself, and he kind of kneels in front of Cliff, and Cliff kneels down as well, and Die-Hardman starts crying, and then Cliff takes off Die-Hardman's mask, and
just a regular
Cliff
ass dude underneath.
Mm-hmm. And Cliff asks if it's really him, and Die-Hardman confirms. And listen, in case you weren't painfully aware in the flashbacks, Die-Hardman's John.
Oh my god!
Yay! So now that we've figured this out, Cole, did you guess that it was John? Was Die-Hardman?
Yeah, no, you.
Yeah.
I mean, his voice is so distinct. I mean, it's just obviously Die-Hardman the entire time.
Yeah, it's clearly Die-Hardman. Like it's not like if you didn't like I'm normally not like this with things, but like if you didn't piece together that John was Die-Hardman, there's something wrong with your critical processing.
Yeah.
All right, well, pardon me not for being so fucking aware like the rest of you guys.
You knew it was John too.
You narc.
You fucking narc. Get out of here.
So one interesting aside that I kind of like with this whole scene is, so obviously Mads has his spooky, scary skeletons as usual, but these ones are all tacked out just like he is, because up until this piece, with the exception of the end of the World War II section, they've all been basically in the uniforms of whatever period they were fighting in, and that makes me think that maybe these guys are like the skeletons, quote unquote, of Cliff's old Special Forces team.
Oh,
Interesting.
That is a really cool point. I didn't even think about that.
Seeing Cliff come up like this, I was just like kind of giddy a little bit. I was like, yeah, get him, Cliff.
Get him. Especially,
yeah, Cliff, make him say,
Especially because there was one point before he moves on or I think it was right at the beginning as Die-Hardman's falling to his knees, like Cliff just has this stone face and he's got his rifle, and I expected him to just shoot him right then and there. Like he had it leveled and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dead to rights.
So Die-Hardman's like, yeah, it's really me, it's John. He asks Cliff if he remembers, and Die-Hardman like apologizes to Cliff, and then Cliff aims his rifle at him, and then walks past John, aims his gun at Bridget, and he says he's demanding his BB. He wants his BB, and then Bridget, fucking narc,
says, Bridget is the ultimate narc of this of this entire game. Oh,
we need another reason to not like her. Here it is.
Yeah, for real. She's fucking diabolical, and I can't stand her.
Well, this is because at this point Sam texted me. He's like, because Sam wasn't this far, but he's like, "Is John Die-Hardman?" And I had just finished this section, and I want to like go off, and I was like, "No, I can't rant just yet."
Yeah. But yeah, Bridget goes, "You're looking at the wrong place," and then just points at Sam on the cliff. And it's like, it was so fucking narky. It was so bad. And then Cliff like yells for BB, and the skeletons aim their guns up there too. And then Cliff sends them after Sam, and BB starts crying. Lou starts crying. And then out of nowhere, Amelie appears and tells Sam to stay back, and then pushes him off the cliff. And then he finds himself into the water and into the seam. And then when he repatriates, guess what's inside him? It's not Lou.
It's one of them creepy dolls.
What is
The doll.
It's one of the creepy dolls.
Oh, that's gonna puncture his colon.
Oh yeah, it's nails in there.
Puncture a lot of stuff in his throat. My God.
It's not good for you, Bubby.
You can't be eating dolls anymore, Bubby. It's bad for you.
Get out of my belly, Billy.
Get out of my belly. You guys. But yeah, so Sam wakes up and fucking sees Higgs's mask floating around, which is super cool given like everything that's happened.
Yeah, this part messed with me for a second.
Yeah, it's Deadman being a dick.
That's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah.
Well, because my thing in that moment was because with Higgs, he's killed off screen. He's shot off screen, and
so you don't know.
So you don't have like a full 100%. It's you're like, oh well, I mean, for sure, Fragile shot him. And then you come back and you see the mask floating like it was before. And I was like, no, I don't want to do another boss fight right now.
In the room.
In the room.
Well, imagine how brutal that would be. I mean, with how brutal the fist fight was between you and him in a close quarters thing, just smashing each other up against whatever fixtures you can find.
Just grabbing it
through the glass.
Just grabbing two monster songs and just stone colding them just right over top of yourself.
It'd be like the opening to Casino Royale.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just Deadman being a dick, and Deadman kind of uncloaks himself, and he says that Sam is in his room and it's kind of east of the tar belt, thanks to Amelie. But that they don't know where she is, and so that she contacted headquarters with a message saying she was going to finish what Bridget started, and then it disappears. And she says that Sam says that he saw Bridget on the beach, and Deadman says, "Look, it's impossible. Her body was burned." And Sam's like, "Look, I saw her, and then I saw Cliff take that Die-Hardman hostage." And Deadman puts on Die-Hardman's mask. And says he always suspected him, but now he's been putting together a new narrative, and that they've been operating under the assumption that Higgs was controlling Cliff, but that it can't be possible since Higgs is gone and Cliff is still causing, quote, trouble. And Deadman thinks that Cliff is the mastermind and that he's holding Amelie and Die-Hardman hostage on the beach. And Sam's like, I'm going back. But Deadman lets him know that Fragile's unavailable and that the situation has changed quite a bit and that they'll tell him after he rests. And Sam doesn't want to, but he kind of agrees to do it after Deadman points out that Lou needs to rest as well. And Deadman is kind of talking about like what needs to be done next. As they finish the network, but there's one final step. They need a new president and they need to establish a government. And Sam's like, "Fuck America." And Hartman's like, "No, we need to do this because we need to rescue Amelie and stop the sixth extinction." And doing that is the same thing. But that neither is possible unless he comes back east. And Fragile kind of pops in and says that everybody's here but him. And here's where, and I think the rest of you can agree, here's where I have a big fucking problem. This is a big glaring fucking problem.
Is it
Fragile?
Is it the Lord of the Rings Eagles argument?
Yes. Yeah.
Nerds.
Fragile has transported everybody back to headquarters. Lochna's there. Die-Hardman's there. Hartman's there. Deadman's there. Everybody is fucking at headquarters waiting for Sam. And now she is too tired to transport Sam back to the headquarters on the fucking east side of the country. Right? We're on the far west side of the country. And Sam's like, "I'm not doing that. I'm not hauling myself back over there. Fragile, help me." And she says it's dangerous to use the beach to move people now. She said she could get stuck on the beach, wouldn't know where she'd come out. And that's why he needs to haul himself back. So this bitch and these people
these bitches.
They decided, okay, Sam is critical to this mission. He needs to be back east. Let me transport literally every secondary character in this game to the headquarters except Sam, and then make Sam walk across the fucking country to get back to the headquarters.
Okay.
Where in the fucking playbook does that make sense?
Okay. So I get why Dead Man needs to be there. Obviously. I get why Lochna needs to be there, because she's technically like their big like science like person, both physically and like applied. Cool. She should be there. Why is Heartman there? That dude dies every 3 minutes and it has a perfectly good place.
21. He's dead for 3 minutes. He dies every 21 minutes.
Oh, yeah. He dies every 21 minutes. He is perfectly fine in his special lab that's made specifically for him for that exact reason.
And he even mentions that his role in this all is to check the beaches for Die-Hardman and Amelie, which, like, he's just doing the same thing he fucking does anyway. Just stay in your lab.
Just stay. Why do you have to be there? It's just dumb.
Yeah.
Because, guys, how else would Kojima hold you hostage?
I've got a bone to pick with, he says that the thing about going to the beach is to check, because later on he says something that completely contradicts that.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it up then.
Yeah.
Okay.
All I can say is that this makes the backtracking for the fucking hot, cold key in Metal Gear Solid 1 look like child's play.
Oh my god, I didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one thing. So basically what we're about to talk about, episode 10 is like entirely cutscene and then backtracking. And I kind of like realized that there is a theme in most of Kojima's modern games where you have to, because I don't have a lot of familiarity with his earlier stuff, so I don't really know, but like Metal Gear for sure, where he has a really weird obsession with backtracking. Mm-hmm. And this is the worst it is.
Well, not only that, but it's compounded by the fact that it's backtracking interspersed with unskippable cutscenes. Radio calls.
That too, and also because the chiral density is just through the roof right now because of all this crazy shit. You can't use the network. You can't like make like new equipment. So have fun. Good luck.
Was that this part or was this? I thought that was.
It wasn't this part.
12.
It was the next part. We'll get to that part.
Well,
you could still make stuff in this part, but if you didn't,
that's right. That's right. That's my bad. I'm getting them mixed up. It's just the backtracking all have.
Listen, Cole. No one can blame you because they're both interchangeable.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird fucking thing to do. And like the thing of it is, like, even if you're correct, like Heartman doesn't really need to be there, but that argument is secondary to the fact that they should have fucking transported Sam first.
Yeah,
he is the key to the entire fucking mission succeeding. Teleport him first.
Yeah.
I've been saying.
What are you doing
since episode 1, and I'm going to say it again: artificial padding.
Well, it's that old video game trope of go back from the way you came and like see how much more powerful you are now. Like going
and like
I can concede to that. I didn't even think of that.
Well, here's my and we can talk about this a little bit more later too. But I don't even think it does that good.
No, I don't.
Like it doesn't even do that well.
I don't.
Yeah,
because like
I think it's too tedious.
Because what was the biggest threat in this section was just the jellyfish again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Time to go jellyfishing.
Oh no! Sorry, I got that was in chapter 12 as well. There really was no threats in this part other than
this part was
the biggest threat was just
really
having
easy.
your time wasted by Dead Man calling you every 10 minutes,
which
was funny because at one point I was just wandering around and Sheena called me, and she listened as Dead Man went on and on and on. And after he finished, she went, "That's what you've been listening to this entire game?" I was like, "Yep." She was like, "Jesus Christ."
So they all kind of do their rah-rah break thing, and they all have their tasks to do, and Dead Man's checking records, and Heartman's checking beaches, and blah, blah, blah. And we got one more flashback as you're leaving the room. You see, it's a BB flashback, and you see Bridget telling John that the child is special and one of a kind, and Bridget's wearing the Die-Hardman mask.
Which why?
I think I could be wrong, but I think they explain it later.
Oh, did they? I might have missed it.
They might. I think I'm pretty sure.
I must have missed it if they did.
There. Yeah.
It just seemed out of place to me.
It was a little out of place. In this moment it was, and it was really weird, but I think they do explain it later, so we'll probably get there. But John asks her, says if the child could be a BB candidate, and she says that it's a foundation or a bridge. And then we get the title card, which is, again, episode 10, Die-Hardman. Which, can I mention for a second that this is like the one character chapter, like you kind of get a little insight into Die-Hardman in this chapter a bit, but like he's barely in it. Yeah. Why is it called Die-Hardman?
I'm not sure at this point.
Like I think maybe they just wanted to give all of like the quote like title characters their own chapter.
I was about to say that it's probably like an homage to Tarantino. Fucking everyone needs their own chapter.
Mm-hmm. But like he doesn't really have a big role. He's missing for basically all of it. But anyway, and yeah, thus begins the long walk back.
Odyssey number 2
with these calls. I guess it was a scenic enough trip. I guess it was pretty. There was like an aurora on the sky that I didn't notice before, but like
that was a cool effect. I did enjoy that.
Yeah, like I will never not like this game is gorgeous. Like it's a beautiful game to look at. I just like she pretty. She a baddie.
This part was basically just speed skeleton my way between all the online generators because it was late enough in the game's like release period that a lot of other people were like putting stuff down at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And with that speed skeleton,
too is that like you can
book it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that you can plot a course, and because like the network is up, you can see like where the BT spaces are, where the mule stuff is, and again, this is late in the cycle, so like those signs are up, and then so you can just go around everything, and I did, and it was very easy. And I kind of like booked it like over and then kind of down and then towards like Lake Knot, and then I just grabbed a bike and drove up the road there to get to Lake Knot City. And so Deadman calls you, I think, 5 times.
Yep.
Throughout this, instead of just calling you and talking to you while you're driving, he interrupts. You stop. You're walking or your vehicle or whatever. You stop basically, and you answer this phone call. Which the phone calls are not skippable or pausable.
No,
I think
they're not.
And so when I was taking notes about this, I had to fucking press the PlayStation button to go to the home screen so I could take a fucking breath to write down all the details. And yeah, so Deadman will call first, and he recaps Cliff's story, saying that he retired around the time of the Death Stranding and became involved in BB experiments somehow, and then died before they ended. And they're not sure what his death was about, but the battlefields are partially sustained by his enduring emotional attachments relating to the BB experiments. And this, again, is a detail we talked about earlier in the game. So, yeah, didn't need that. But yeah, he's driven by his compulsion to take BB back, and it compelled him to drag himself back from hell, and that he's nothing like a BT, and then you know more about him. Then you do more, and he calls again. And he says that BBs were meant as a catalyst for the chiral network, and that all of the Knot cities were built with them at their core, which is fucked up.
Real bad.
And again, so we know, like, again, to connect Edge Knot City, we had to take a BB and give it to the distro center to put the network online. So, like, we had a glimpse of what this was a while back, and yeah, it was fucked up. And he thinks that Amelie was the one who installed them, and that doing all this may have cost Bridget her soul, and that the chiral network is their greatest achievement and their guiltiest sin. And then you do some more, and he calls a third fucking time. and tells Sam that that Cliff willingly put his child in the care of the BB experiment. So ostensibly here, these phone calls are supposed to be happening like spaced out over time, right? Because Deadman is looking up this information in the records, and he's finding new shit and telling you. And in theory, these would come out super spaced out because you're taking a long trek back. But like, if you're just fucking going, the trip isn't that long, and so they pick these like weird arbitrary points in your trip to call you and stop your progress to tell you this stuff. So it feels very like hammed in there,
jarring and sporadic. Yeah.
And so he did this because so he's saying that Cliff gave them his baby because didn't know what their true intentions were. And then when he found out, he tried to get Ray in custody but failed, and says that he'd have every reason to bear a grudge against Bridget, but that just because she wasn't dead doesn't mean that his hate is, and that he redirected it towards Bridget and anyone close to, or to Bridges and anyone close to Die-Hardman. And then calls a fourth time, and like, I don't know about the timing for you guys. This fourth one comes immediately, like seconds after.
You get like a couple feet on the bike, and then all of a sudden, the codec goes off.
Okay,
just straight back in.
Okay. So he calls this fourth time, says that he doesn't think Die-Hardman can make the jump to Bridget's Beach without having a strong personal connection. And looked in the histories and said he couldn't see one of those, but the network should have contained something, but there was nothing, and that everything about his life from before the last 10 years was redacted. And Deadman considers that he actually has a connection with Cliff and used that to jump, and maybe why Cliff is holding Die-Hardman hostage, and wonders how the two of them wound up on the beach. And Hartman jumps in now and says that because of the chiral network, the beaches are combining and creating one big seam. And if that process continues, the BTs could flood into the living world and create an unprecedented Death Stranding. And he says that his beach and Cliff's battlefield exist in a pocket that are unaffected. And asks where the beach that facilitated a higher process setting everything in motion was. And he questions that it might just be Amelie's, that is this like big overarching beach, and thinks that Cliff's ultimate goal is to gain control of Amelie's beach and exploit its power over everything and trigger this last stranding, this huge extinction event that's going to wipe everything out. And Deadman thinks that Cliff was the one who put Higgs up to everything, and that the last stranding is Cliff's final revenge against the world that took his child and his life. It's very dramatic. So that's a lot.
I mean, it's just another one of these. It's another one of these moments where it's like, yeah, I really do. I go back to what I was saying last episode, where I was just kind of complaining about, them not telling me about the actual story and making me read it. This is just another time where it's the exact opposite, where it's like, hey, here's a giant information dump. Have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's actually funny because, Cole, I think in part 1 of this coverage, you mentioned that even though the tooltips are kind of annoying, you appreciated them and the nature of the calls that you get, as opposed to Metal Gear Solid, because of how it's how it doesn't break the action as much, and then they do it so egregiously in this part that it's comedic.
Well, I mean, the thing with the tooltips is that it doesn't interrupt the flow of the game. I'm very anti you stopping the game and forcing me to, deal with something, unless it's a cutscene, like a necessary cutscene that that moves the story along. Everything that the codecs were, explaining could have been done as, in the background while I'm still moving.
Yeah.
Just have them just keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're kind of making this journey, and this is happening as you are approaching Lake Knot, and again, we're getting interrupted after you see this. We're getting calls still at this point, and as you approach Lake Knot, guess what you see above Lake Knot City? That's right. If you guess Supercell, you win the prize. It's another Supercell.
Oh yeah.
And so we know what's probably about to happen when we get there. And of course, the worst happens as he gets close. You see another flashback, and Cliff's on the ground, and he's talking to apparently BB, and he says when he found out he was going to be a father, he was so scared of what it would mean, and that he had to be there for BB and his mother no matter what, and he couldn't go off to get himself killed anymore, and he couldn't leave them all alone. And he said he had it all wrong, and that being a father made him brave and not scared, and that he apologized for it taking so long before it flashes to another scene of Cliff, and he's telling BB not to make the same mistake and to be himself and to be free. And then John is in front of Cliff with these guards, and he aims a gun at him and asks Cliff to hand BB over. And behind him is Bridget ordering John to shoot. And eventually he does. You hear a gunshot, and then the scene fades to black. And then, we're about to jump into our next chapter. But before we do, I want to see if anybody has any final thoughts about episode 10 before we move on to episode 11.
That whole bit about the cutscene with Cliff was just real heavy emotionally.
It was.
And this is, I think, where the game is the strongest, when it's playing on this relationship with Cliff.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I also agree with what you guys were saying earlier. Like, I wish that the codec sequences had basically just been like the radio calls in Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, the action did not stop while you were going.
Yeah. Especially when it's like you're not doing anything specific except just walking.
Just chapter 10 I'm not a fan of.
I'll give Kojima this. I've been kind of just dunking on this game left and right here. But what Kojima does really, really well is he writes, for all the kind of goofy stuff that he writes into his games, he does do relationships between characters very well. I mean, it's in this chapter that you really do kind of feel for the actual characters in the game.
I'll get more specific than that. I think that he does familial relationships really well.
Yes.
Romantic
well.
ones, not so much. I don't think he's.
I would.
That.
I can agree with that. I mean, he does. As far as like romantic, he does tension very well. I mean, I think back to like Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah, with him and Eve.
Yes, it's doing that very well. And of course, he's kind of relying on a trope there, like the kind of like espionage spy, trope when it comes to seduction. But when it comes to actually dealing with real issues and real face-to-face interactions, he does a fantastic job. And that last scene that you talked about with Cliff talking to BB,
that
was
so
heavy.
what I will say here too is that did like make me feel something pretty heavy. So I have a very like my dad is like my best friend, and like I have a really, really good relationship with my dad. And like hearing that speech that Cliff did just then, like I used to do a podcast back in the day, and it was kind of like a little experiment where I kind of like talked to a specific person about a specific word. And I did an episode that was about the word father with my dad. Like I recorded with my dad, and like number one, I'm so glad I have that like that moment, and that I have that like talk that we had like committed to like.
I remember that episode. That was a good episode.
It was, and I talked to him. He said just about as much. Like he's very like he felt that like he felt he didn't really know what kind of father he was going to be, but he was going to try his best, and he did, and he has ever since. And like it made me feel very like wow, like I felt like I wanted to call my dad like after I played that part. And it was I will everything up to this point, and I think even like through the end of the game that Kojima does with Cliff is fantastic.
Yeah. No, and the other thing, just kind of foreshadowing, the acting that we see in this chapter only gets better towards going to the end of the game. I mean, it's just...
the story surrounding this, and I think like if it was presented in a different way, like I think we'd be talking a lot more positively about it because the story is good.
Yes.
And we talked last week about how like we wish that there were like a lot of like lore details that were left out that we wish would have been included more directly in the story. Mm-hmm. But I think the what Chris said last week was that like the story, for better or for worse, whether you like it or not, is about the relationships between the characters. And I think that story is really good.
Yeah.
And I think it continues to be good throughout the game, throughout the rest of this game.
It reminds me of, I mean, not to keep banging this drum, what like when with people with me and Chris's favorite show. It's like hey,
yes,
you know, I really love Twin Peaks, but if you show it to someone without giving them any kind of context about it, it comes off as very odd and strange. But you always just say, if you can just get through like 4 episodes, it gets great after that, and you're hooked. And I think it's the same kind of scenario with Death Stranding. It's like if you can just play for long enough to get these kind of really, really awesome moments, it's a fantastic game. It's a fantastic story.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's got like, it's similar to Twin Peaks, I think, in the sense that it gives you a lot of different mysteries in the game to think about as you're playing through it. And that's part of the fun, right? It's like contemplating and discussing like what we do, the video game.
Yeah, because you don't, I mean, even at this point where the game is giving you all these answers that you think you wanted, you're still kind of in the dark, and it does a fantastic job of kind of balancing, you know, giving you answers while also making you question more about things you didn't even question before.
Mm-hmm. So for all the parts of the story regarding Cliff, Kojima dropped enough breadcrumbs along the way that it always left me wanting more while feeling satisfied at what I just saw.
Yeah, that's a fair take.
Mm-hmm. And I think it all pays off, and like we'll get to that like later on.
Yeah,
I think it all pays off in a good way.
Yeah.
So
speaking of
Cliff, episode 11.
Someone cue CCR right now.
See, I was thinking paint it black.
There's a lot of things we could cue here. I'm gonna cue more low roar because that's the only thing I'm not scared we'll get stricken for. So here we go.
With not a word to say, a routine, red light.
If you're still playing this, we can't play what me and Zach just said, but you should definitely be playing either like CCR or like Rolling Stones when you play through this.
Paint It Black or like something.
Like Fortunate Son or something
play the
like
Vietnam movie music.
Yeah.
Any
Welcome to the jungle!
Is that a Vietnam song?
No, for sure. For sure, yeah. Axl Rose was a huge anti-Vietnam War guy, actually, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just want to see the opening of Apocalypse Now, but instead of The End by the Doors, Welcome to the Jungle blasting. It takes out a totally different connotation with that song.
Oh man.
If you haven't guessed it,
so
we're in Vietnam at this point.
We're in Vietnam, like we predicted. We're in Vietnam. And yeah, this is episode 11, Clifford Unger. So we had Unger, we had Clifford, now we have Clifford Unger. And again, the camera pans along the ground to the baby doll, and tar fills up on the ground like before. And then a chopper flies above, and several skeletons rappel down. And then Cliff appears, and he's wearing this mask that Die-Hardman and Bridget have been wearing, and takes it off. And then he kind of like tells the bird to circle before he puts on his goggles, and the title card pops up. And then Sam wakes up in a dark, burning jungle, and now it's time to make your way through here. And oh my god, the atmosphere.
Just from the stories I've heard from actual Vietnam vets, he fucking nailed it.
Just like it's so chaotic and like you never know, like everything's happening. It's dark. There's so many like noises going around. There's helicopters everywhere that you don't know if they're a problem or not. Like,
I was just waiting to get fucking boofed in the face with a helicopter like I did with that biplane.
Dude, I was expecting like, well, you kind of get it at some point, but I was expecting like napalm to be like just dropped somewhere near me.
Yeah, if Kojima ever wanted to make like a military action movie, this proves to me that he could do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Hell, if he wanted to do like a Call of Duty style game, or like a Battlefield style game, like something like
easily.
Oh my god, that'd be crazy.
Hideo Kojima presents Call of Duty.
I'd actually play Call of Duty again.
Actually. Hey, the newest one actually isn't too bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I even picked up the newest one. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I might give it a shot.
Anyway, yeah, it's very atmospheric, very, very dark, and you just kind of make your way along as best as you can.
Well, it's just like the World War I and World War II sections. You got to go around and pick up all your gear, and it sort of gives you a vague, like, I think what's this one? Just reach cliff or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Just be here. Yeah.
Anyone else have like a relatively difficult time with this level?
No, I just like much like the other two. I spent a good bit just sort of walking wherever I could and looking around.
I mean I did a little bit of that, but I also discovered something very I guess useful in this level after dying about 4 times.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, but we can get to that whenever we get to
Cliff section.
Cliff. Yeah.
What about you, Chris? Anything getting to Cliff at least? Anything troublesome for you?
I really didn't have that difficult of a time. It's kind of a walk through the park.
All right, Cole Duncan, Weenie Hut Jr. over here.
Yeah, big Weenie Hut Jr. over here. And I love how Chris just described Vietnam as a walk in the park.
That'll light some masses on fire, won't it? Headline: Chris Hampton says Vietnam was a walk in the park.
I want someone to Photoshop Chris into like a screenshot from Platoon. Sleeveless, like cut off sleeves and a pack of Marlboros and everything.
Just tucked into his sleeve, tucked into his shirt.
No, man, in his helmet band.
Yeah.
Just might as well put me in Hot Shots Part 2.
Love that.
Hell yeah.
If you were in Vietnam, what would you have written across your helmet?
Aim here.
Oh, that's morbid as shit.
I mean, gallows humor, baby. It's the only way to make it out.
Oh, of course.
Probably like burn it down and build it up or something like that. What would you have? I feel like you've thought about this a lot.
No, it's just because thinking about that. No, I don't know what I'd write. I'm a big fan of Charlie Sheen's from the movie Platoon, where he writes, "When I die, bury me upside down so the world can kiss my ass." What about you, Chris?
I do like that.
Oh, I don't know. Probably something like, can't complain, nobody would listen.
Oh, I like that.
Probably like how are you doing? Oh, living the dream.
Yeah.
Or living the dream.
Ah, yes.
Oh my God.
White people speak for I wish I was dead.
Have you ever told? I need to tell the story about how. So I walked up to. This is months ago now. I walked up to our IT director one time, and walked up to him and I was like, "Hey, how's it going, man?" And he goes, "Oh, every day's a burden." And then he just kind of walked away. And that may have honestly been my favorite human interaction I've ever had.
I'm going to steal that immediately.
Every day is a burden.
Yeah, every day's a burden.
You have to say it really cheery and then just leave without context. Anyway, so
one day closer to the end. Oh well.
One day closer to the end. So you walk through this area. It's a kind of a different change of pace from World War I, World War II. It's dark, like you said. There's more explosions everywhere. It's very tense. And you get to like this open part of the jungle, and Sam kind of gets a headache, and the Odenkirk starts freaking out, and it flashes to a baby doll on Cliff's barbed wire web, and as the web burns, Cliff and his skeletons rise from the tar.
Oh, I love this.
And Cliff lights his magic cigarette. He takes a couple drags and he tosses it, and the tar just lights on fire.
No, he lights it. He lights it because there's ash and
the helicopter.
sparks.
Yeah, there's like embers like in the air,
That's right.
He catches
Yeah.
one with the end of his cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
which was badass.
It was very badass. And there's like a helicopter above him and stuff like that. So he lights a cigarette and takes a few drags like he does and tosses it. And then the tar around them just lights on fire. And these guys are just walking forward in this lake of fire. And it's fucking buck
You
wild.
better believe I caught a couple of screenshots of this.
So buck.
So buck.
Yeah.
So buck.
And yeah, so the jungle, it's time to face the jungle, is a much wilder place to do this again.
Yeah.
And it adds kind of another layer to the mechanic that we've done before, because like before there was like all of the enemies were very much clustered in one direction, and so you could deal with them and the Odenkirk's like helping you out. Here again, we kind of talked about it's very chaotic, like Vietnam indeed was. They're all around you at all times, and the Odenkirk cannot keep up. So you're getting like pegged from like behind you randomly while you're trying to deal with these dudes in front of you, and like it's wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Did anyone get like Metal Gear Solid 3 vibes?
Yes, in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Yeah. Facing the self-esteem team. Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love those videos.
So
I have not thought about those in years. Thank you for that, Sam.
You're welcome.
I realized something about these kind of combat encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Kojima is kind of, and Zach, you can either, validate this or invalidate this.
Or tell you to fuck off, because he will.
Yeah, I know he'll tell me to fuck off, but like, just I might as well just try and throw it to him because, like I said, you've got more experience with this than I do. It seems like to me, Kojima is kind of forcing you to fight the enemies in a similar way to how these wars were actually fought. Like with the first incident in
trench warfare,
and that we said that's in Eastern Europe, so I'm assuming that's something like St. Petersburg. So it's a lot of like close, like building to street to street combat.
Mm-hmm.
And then here in Vietnam, they give you a ton of like bushes, which is what I used a lot to my advantage to kind of sneak through and kind of do like guerrilla warfare, kind of like pick off a couple of guys at a time and then just run for a little bit.
Well, Cole. Actually, I agree with you 100%, and I was thinking about that earlier and how I was going to segue. But yeah, you're 100% right, because the World War I had almost like not like a cat and mouse feel, but almost more like for lack of a better term, like a peekaboo feel. Like, all right, let me fucking go and pop off a few shots and take cover back in my trench.
Yeah.
World War
II. They also gave you shotguns in that area in the first one.
Well, yeah, because who doesn't want to be a German soldier in 1917 when a pissed off American jumps down and slam fires his fucking shotgun 5 times into you and your friends. And then, but I think you hit the nail on the head with how it changed with each one, and it also built upon all of them as well, because World War I had the very linear feel because you were in the trenches. World War II gave you a little more freedom because it was that street combat, but you could go around a building, you go in a building, you could try to flank them, yada yada yada. And then in this one, you had that, but it was also used against you because you had all this foliage around you that you couldn't see through, but they could see you and X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. The only thing is, Cole, that I do disagree with you is don't use the bushes, man. That's only concealment. You gotta use those trees. You gotta use those trees. That's cover.
They're in the trees.
Yeah. When you're in Vietnam, the trees start
bushes.
speaking skeleton Vietnamese.
But and so there was one other part here that this part gave me a shit ton of trouble, and it came in the fact that I was using hematic rounds on these cats, so I was constantly losing blood, and I was like, Jesus Christ, they're going down, but like if I get caught twice, I'm done.
So I ran into a similar thing, and I had a couple hairy moments, but because I'm also obsessive in trying to prepare, on top of having my utility pouches completely full, I also carried about 6 or 7 blood bags on me at any time. And then, like, as soon as I was able to take cover and I'd equip another one to start a transfusion, I would do an Odekirk scan. And as soon as I found another one, once I had, I think, like 500 milliliters, I forget about the halfway point. I would sprint, and just as I was sprinting, I'd hit triangle to pick that up, and then I would just make my way to the next piece of cover to sort of always have a supply of blood bags.
Yeah, I mean, like I tried to stay strapped when it came to blood bags.
I actually have like a weird like mechanics question here.
Yeah,
shouldn't the bullets and the grenades just be already made with his blood in them? Why are they draining his blood?
I agree.
That.
I agree. Fuck you. That's why. I assume the answer. With a lot of this game, that's the answer. But the part that I realized after dying 4 times was,
damn,
you don't need hematic rounds to kill these dudes.
Yeah.
No.
So
yeah,
you never have.
I did because I didn't put 2 and 2 together for some stupid reason, and then I just kept on getting just lit up, and like my blood constantly being just depleted, and I was like, Jesus, what is going on now? And I switched over to regular lethal rounds. I was like, oh, this is 10 times easier. Oh my god.
Way to go, Weenie Hut Jr.
Thanks, Dad.
What about you, Mr. Vietnam was a walk in the park, Chris Hampton? What do you got? What do you got for us?
Chris just called it an airstrike. He put in the Konami code and just moved into the next.
He used the game narc that we talked about earlier.
Oh my god. Yeah. That would have been absolutely perfect if you could have put in the Konami code and just lit them up.
And I just love what Sony's doing with these consoles now, because they're so interactive. You know, like the light bar changes colors, and like the PlayStation gets really fucking loud, like a helicopter.
The disc starts skipping to sound like the fucking helicopter blades.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so the fight itself, no, I kind of knew that I didn't need hermetic rounds, but I really suck at the combat portions of this game. So my rig, my SAM rig, is
Why does that sound gross?
SAM rig.
My SAM rig.
What you hauling on that there SAM rig? There?
Well,
that's their rig you got there, boy.
Breaker.
On the back of the backpack, I have all pouches, and they're all filled with blood pouches. So,
I don't think we've ever talked about what.
Wait, you can put blood bags on the back of your
yeah, you can put the utility pouches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you
when
guys
you're
put?
when you're building them?
What did you guys put on the back of your backpack?
I had a spare battery.
I had an extra battery, and then I had an extra battery, and then everything else was made.
I did the same thing. Was there like another point where like you unlock utility pouches? Oh
yeah.
What a difference that would have fucking made.
I just put I just slapped 2 batteries on the back of that thing.
You're a battery boy?
I was a battery boy.
Okay.
Big bad battery boy.
Kept my skeletons
boy.
running.
Big bad battery boy.
Battery boy. I am Batteryman.
Battery boy.
Still Winnie Hut Jr.
No, I was Mr.
Shut
Pouchman, so yeah, I had tons of blood to share. Which I needed it because I kept getting. I didn't die. I will say that. but I used almost all of my blood supply during this fight.
I got lit up a lot.
It sounds like it. It sounds like Cole had the most realistic Vietnam experience out of the four of us.
I got
died multiple times and came back to life. Yeah, that's a realistic Vietnam experience.
All right, Sam, fucking sniping me over here.
I love Chris saying I had a lot of blood to share. It's like those Coke bottles with the names on them. Share a blood bag with Stacy.
Oh my god!
I mean, that's what it's like in the online mode. When you get the white figures that pop up and throw shit at you. Yeah, that's basically what that is.
Yeah,
basically, yeah. I think because it was so like buck wild, like I also didn't die, but it was very hairy. Like I got close a couple times, and I think that was
I got real close
intentional.
More than a few times.
Yeah,
like to the point where
so I think that was intentional.
I don't know if you guys experienced this at all, but like I took aim because this is before I realized that I could just use the lethal rounds. So like I'd see a fucking skeleton about to round the fucking tree that I was hiding behind, so I'd take aim and go to shoot, and it'd be like, "You don't have enough blood to shoot." I'm like, "Ah!" I have to run away.
That happened quite a few times to me.
Yeah, that's buck wild.
Why isn't my gun working?
Yeah, the other thing too is that Cliff adds again, like last time, he adds a couple new tactics in here too. Like he uses these like those weird tendrils to attack as well, and then when he retreats, he leaves like a burning trail behind him.
He uses the tendrils to attack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was gonna say earlier when I was like I was expecting napalm to come down. It kind of. I mean, personally, I have never seen napalm deployed. Believe it or not.
Because it's not legal.
That was the believe it or not part there, genius. Way to go.
Well, I mean, you never know.
Wow, Kings, stop fighting.
Yeah. Also,
started it.
Also, to add on
in front of the kids.
Fuck you, Cole.
By the way, for listeners, I actually do like this guy.
Fucking speak for yourself.
Don't lie. Don't lie on this podcast.
But I think the implication was that this is kind of like the napalm because he does throw it at you, and it creates a giant like AOE. And out of that AOE, like his tendrils like come flying up, start like smacking every which way.
How the fuck have I missed so much of this stuff?
I have no fucking idea, dude. You're beyond the pale, man.
I don't know how.
Oh yeah. Everyone's gonna pile on Cole because he took his time with the fucking game, but apparently some of you people miss shit.
Don't fucking some of you people. Don't let me in because I saw all of this shit.
Why don't you shut the fuck up, Weenie Hut war criminal?
Whoa. Okay.
Wow.
And the other thing that Cliff does is that when you knock him out and he disappears again, he kind of leaves a trail behind him, so you can kind of get an idea for the general direction that he goes in, because the area is also very open and it's very easy to get like.
Oh, I would have gotten lost as fuck if he had not left that trail.
Oh yeah, so it was very good. So I think that was a good ad there. But yeah, so. It's beyond that. It's a normal one.
Yep.
Down Cliff enough times, and you get another cutscene, and Cliff kind of reaches out for Lou and starts whistling the BB's theme, and Lou kind of reacts to this, and Cliff says that they're getting out of here, and Sam kind of pulls Lou away, and Cliff demands to give him back his baby, and then Sam asks him, he's like, "Are you Clifford Unger?" And Cliff starts crying, and he asks who Sam is, and Sam asks if he's Lou's father, and Lou starts crying, and then Cliff whistles the song again, and Lou kind of calms down. And Cliff kind of addresses Sam and says they told him that his name was Sam Porter, but he's really Sam Bridges, and that he is the bridge to the future. And Cliff stands up and he tells Sam, he says, you bring people together and that you're their bridge to the future. And then he holds up his dog tags, tells Sam to stand up. And then Cliff puts his dog tags on Sam, and Sam kind of hands Lou over to Cliff finally, but Cliff hands him back and kind of hugs Sam. And the camera pans around, and you see Cliff is now in his suit that he's wearing all these flashbacks instead of his uniform. And then you hear this like really loud bang, and then Cliff kind of disappears, and then we get another flashback. And we see John tell Cliff to take BB and get out of this place. And John says that if Bridget orders him to do something, that he has to do it. And there's a very big emphasis on he has to do it here. But that he served under Cliff first and that his family doesn't deserve any of what's happening. And Cliff kind of asks why John's risking himself to help. And John says because he saved his life again and again. And that when the brass sent them into the jaws of hell, it was Cliff that brought them home. And that's kind of the end of this episode.
Yeah. Once again, really good character development between Sam and Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Oh, well, Sam was talking first. So, Sam.
Oh no, I can't handle this pressure. Yeah, I was just gonna say again, it's like another like really phenomenal like Cliff thing.
So there was one little thing where when BB started freaking out the second time, and Cliff started whistling BB's theme, Sam actually took over it from him as well, and that's when Cliff sort of like looks up at him like surprised.
Oh, I don't think I noticed that when it was happening. Mm-hmm. Oh wow, that's a really good touch. I like that a lot. But yeah, so we get this kind of cut to black again. We get the results screen, and then it's time for the next episode.
Scream, scream, scream.
Somebody scream.
Keep it in mind, dear son of mine. Remember when you wake.
And we're walking.
We're walking.
That's the title of the fucking episode.
And we're walking.
I've been naming them, and this is the title of the episode, I think.
That's perfect.
But yeah, so Sam wakes up in his room and the lights are flickering, and he kind of walks up to Lou's pod and it says connection lost on it, and Sam kind of sees Cliff's dog tags nearby, and Dead Man appears in the room and asks if Sam's okay, and he said he went to the supercell and came out near Port Knot City, and was brought inside by Victor, who, if you remember Victor, he is the Port Knot City guy whose brother is Igor, who, if you remember Igor, was the gentleman at the beginning that died very violently.
Nice stabbing.
Big time bad way.
Self-stabbing.
Yeah, big time self-stabbing, big time bad way. Gave us Lou to begin with. And then Sam mentions that Cliff might be Lou's father, and Deadman says that's impossible because he'd be too old, but Sam kind of interrupts and says that Cliff gave him the dog tags and that he might be trying to tell them something about how BBs are made. And then Deadman says that he has a recording from Die-Hardman. He said it was labeled "If I Don't Come Back," and plays the message for Sam. It's this hologram of Die-Hardman talking. He says, "Look, this is insurance if something happens, and that it's for Bridget's eyes only." And then he said that he got a present from Amelie and that she'd take him to the beach if he wanted. And he holds up a baby doll that has those like scars on its stomach, and not quite as like, it's still disturbing, but in a different way because it doesn't have like the nails and stuff, but it's still creepy as shit. But yeah, so Die-Hardman kind of recognizes this as a trap, but that he decided to play along, and says that everybody has been playing along too. And he says that the mask hides more than his face, and then he takes it off briefly and puts it back on. And he says that Amelie is a blank slate too, with no record she ever even existed, and says he's never met Amelie in person, which is a theme that we kind of picked up on in recent weeks, that nobody's actually ever seemed to meet Amelie in person.
It's always through like chirogram or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then he kind of tells a story about how the original Bridges 1 group was divided into two groups, that Amelie was with the first group and Mama and Hartman were with the second, and that they never had any direct contact with her. And then says that Amelie's group was wiped out in Edge Knot, everybody except for her, and Sam claims that it's bullshit and that they've touched, but Deadman chimes in and says, look, I've only interacted with her via hologram, and says you've only met her in person on the beach when you were little. Or Sam says, I met her on the beach when I met her in person when I was little, but Deadman says it was on the beach. So have you really met her? And then they resume the conversation with Die-Hardman and says that Bridget had some things to say to him about Amelie, and said that she was born on the beach, that her ka remained there, but her ha came to this world, and the division of her body and soul made her have to spend most of her childhood in the hospital, and that she had poor health, but her dooms numbers were off the charts, and her kind of supernatural talents grew as she became older, and she kind of overcame those limitations. And by the time she was 20, she could travel to the beach, body and all, and chose to spend all of her time there, and that you would have to get in touch with her by hologram. And the president, Bridget, kind of insisted on that fact. And Die-Hardman says he swore an oath to the president and America, and he believed Bridget when she told him. But when archives kind of became available to him, he tested out his privileges and found out that Bridget could not have kids because she was diagnosed with uterine cancer in her 20s, and that there's no way for Amelie to be her biological daughter. And then starts questioning if Amelie is real and how they could know Amelie's an EE if they don't even know if Amelie is Amelie. And says that even the EE theory might be bullshit, but that if she's actually the cause of Death Stranding, that he has to accept her invitation to the beach. And that he took the gun and he loaded it with hematic rounds that have Sam's blood in them, which is what connects him to her, and then him to all of them, which is how he gets to the beach. And he then goes, look, I am just a man with no powers. I don't have any dooms. I can't repatriate. I don't know anything about dying, and that every single battlefield he was on was hell, but that he never died no matter how bad it got, because all he did was run from death. And then he says he has to go because she's calling for him, and that Bridges, and says for Bridges to not let him down. And then we get the title card for episode 12, Bridges. And then Deadman says that he jumped once he finished the recording. And so Sam kind of recaps what happened on the beach and tells him that Amelie was there and got him out. And Deadman says that he couldn't believe he didn't see it sooner, that it was Amelie who, and then the power cuts out. And he can't finish his sentence, but then he comes back, and this is the chiral network dropped, and this is setting up the bullshit of this chapter.
Yeah, this is the part that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. The chiral network drops, and then it won't be long before it becomes unstable. And Sam kind of asks if what they did was for nothing, and Deadman says he's got to finish what he's saying. And then Fragile pops in and says that she'll tell him, and she says that she had a chat with Higgs on the beach, and Higgs told her that Amelie was actually the terrorist leader. And Sam's like, nah, dude. And and Fragile's like, look, it makes sense. And, Higgs turned on me after he met Amelie. And at first he just kind of wanted to expand the reach of his group, but then Amelie shows up with the power to control BTs, and then he loses it and goes with her. And that Amelie gave Higgs and the demons their power. And so Sam kind of asks if he has an answer for why Bridget was there too. And she kind of says, look, I know it's a lot to swallow, but Higgs said that Amelie's an EE. And she mentions that she looked in Higgs's BB pod, and that what was in there was not a BB, but one of the baby dolls. And the idea was that Bridges was following the terrorists' lead with the BBs was garbage. So this whole idea that the terrorists started using BBs to drive BTs towards the Bridges 1 convoy was bullshit, and that they were following the lead of Bridges in the first place. And that the dolls link them to Amelie and their beach. So, holy shit.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. This is the Metal Gear Solid 2 Colonel popping in moment. At the very end. This whole big what moment.
Yeah.
Did you say nerd?
No. Oh, no, Mario and Princess Beach. Let's go to the beach each.
Oh, God.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, so there is a lot happening.
I was definitely expecting a pull the rug out from under you moment in this game, but I didn't expect it to happen right here.
No.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it to be this buck wild either.
It was more like a
No, I thought it'd be a lot more subtle. It's changed the whole plot.
Yeah, it did.
Also, I felt bad for Die-Hardman for the first time.
Same.
Yeah, for real.
I was totally ready to write him off after the whole beach scene, and then this play, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well,
he's
'cause
a decent guy.
Yeah. Well, decent guy, maybe. I don't think we really, like, the thing of it is, like, is he a decent guy or is he, like, a guy that just kind of got caught up in a lot of bullshit?
Yeah.
And it's kind of something we think about, like, later on in the game, too, where it's just like, is this guy good or is he kind of like an asshole or, like, what's happening here? But I think this is the first time where you're like, oh, wow, I have some sympathy for this guy.
I have some kind of empathy for Die-Hardman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like to kind of tie into it, like just like right after this revelation comes up, Deadman kind of like realizes that like Cliff had the dolls too, and that Cliff and Higgs and the director, they were all being controlled by seemingly Amelie, and he kind of asks like, is the EE Bridget or is it Amelie? And Fragile's like, look, our answers are on the beach. And they express how much he needs to find her and for Sam to hurry back east. And Deadman's like, look, you're the next mission. He's like, you need to bring a thing of crypto bytes from Port Knot City to Capital Knot City because Fragile's gonna fucking die, and we need her to do this. And again, we're walking.
And we're walking.
And we're struggling because, again, like Cole brought up earlier, in this chapter, the chiral network is so unstable that you're not able to create things using the chiral printers. The network's down. Everything fucking sucks.
It's raining torrentially.
There's BTs everywhere.
And there's terrorist camps
everywhere.
BTs.
Yep.
And there's random.
And
it's a fun time.
Your catcher encounters that don't even need to get triggered the regular way.
And I had the best one.
Yeah, I want to hear. So it's just a real kick in the dick.
It really is, dude.
There's like a valley that you go through that's filled with the fucking tentacle balloons. Like there's BTs everywhere.
That's the crevice from when you first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But
you're right.
But those ones were weird, and this is where I had a couple close calls because they're black when they're in the sky, but they're brown when they're on the ground. So they fucking
like
blend in.
camouflage themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got my fucking shit ripped when I was going through them, man. Like I was good enough at avoiding them in Edge Knot, but like here they're like virtually impossible to get through without like getting blown up at least once.
I didn't have a hard time getting through them here. I had a really tough time with them at Edge Knot. Like here, I somehow or another just managed to like serpentine my way through.
Well, so I had the same thing because I had like 16 fucking assault rifles on me at this point. It's only a slight exaggeration. But,
stay strapped.
But unlike the ones at Edge Knot where you just shoot them once and they would pop, these ones you'd put 3 rounds into them and then they would fucking split. And there were some that they would split multiple times.
Yeah, it's fucking jellyfish fields forever, dude.
Jellyfish jam, yo.
Forever.
Yeah, Sam, can you cue SpongeBob saying, "Let's go jellyfishing here"?
I sure will, Chris. Let's do it.
The one surefire thing to make your best day ever the best day ever. Jellyfishing, 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 jellyfishing.
That's clean burning comedy, I tell you what.
Clean burning comedy. Yeah.
So, honestly, the biggest problem I had with this up until the end was just because, I didn't realize that the chiral network was down. I thought it was just like, whatever.
In an earlier round?
And I was like, I just need to get through this as quick as possible. So I left my 2 carriers worth of additional shit behind to sprint through.
No.
To include all of my goddamn container repair sprays.
I found one along the way.
So it became much like how Chapter 10 was a mad lad dash from fucking generator to generator. This one was a mad lad dash from fucking timefall shelter to timefall shelter. Because I don't know if we've discussed this, but if you go under a timefall shelter, it actually has a container repair spray built into it.
Yeah.
Which fantastic mechanic there.
Yeah, and definitely fucking saved my hide during this section, because if not, that package would have been gone, man.
Oh, yeah.
I got a really, really fun story to tell about my package when we get
Oh yeah,
when we get,
tell me about your package,
Sam.
Sam.
Yeah, I will all day.
Boys,
first things first. I'm really sad that nobody really clinged on to my early 2000s pop punk reference back there, but it's fine.
But can we talk BT encounters here?
Oh, there's so many. So, like, the fact that this fucking Cairo network is down and, like, this torrentially downpouring, like, timefall and everything's fucking wrong, like, to the point where, like, normally you go through BT fields and you get those little floaty bastards, and then if you run afoul, they grab you and they pull you under and they drag you to an encounter with a catcher, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this fucking journey, they're just ignoring that part and throwing you right into battles with catchers.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it sucks.
Cole, you have a really, really fun story about this.
Yeah, I do.
I would love to hear it.
I do. So, I was plotting my course, right? Mm-hmm. And I remembered that there's a huge, like, swath of BTs on the, I think, western side of the mountain outside of Capital Knot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I've already had to deal with one of those, like, squid BTs. I'm definitely not dealing with that again. So I'm gonna use my big galaxy brain, and I'm gonna plot a course to the east up through the mountain to go and like cross over near the incinerator, because BTs are already gone from there, and if there are BTs, there can't be that many because there weren't the last time. And I was like, Duncan, you did it again. You're a genius.
Duncan
did it again.
And I'm just
did it again.
I'm just
damn Duncan.
I'm just breaking my arm, patting myself on the back. And I get up to the incinerator, no BTs. I was like, hell yeah, look at me, I did something good. And then the ink showed up, and I was like, okay, well, I expected this. It's just gonna be nothing. And then one of those.
That's the thing about it, is that like not even like you get an Odenkirk flash and then the ink shows up. Sometimes the ink will just show up and the Odenkirk doesn't even ping you.
Odenkirk goes straight immediately to cross and orange, and I was like, okay, what do we got? And one of the Eldritch Butthole dogs shows up, and I was like, oh, it's just one of them. I can get through this. And then I look over to my right, and there's another one. I was like, okay, well, I had to deal with this in the mountain. And then that one split in two and turned into, there was now 3. And I was like, okay, that's brand new. And I looked back at the other one, and then he did the exact same thing. So now, if you're keeping score at home, there are 4. And then another one. Another one pops up from behind the 4 of them. So I have 5, count them 5, Eldritch Butthole dogs.
Eldritch Butthole.
Waiting to just rip me a new one.
Jesus, I only encountered 2 in my journey, and I just fucking hopped away from them.
I just fucking hoofed it away. I thankfully ran across, so I did actually get dragged down once, and ran away from that one, and then I came across the thing where it was just like, oh hey, the Odenkirk's not gonna go off. And also, you're just dealing with this now. And it was an Eldritch Butthole dog, but I ran away from him and didn't really have to deal with them because I like to run away from these things.
Well, the thing was, I think it was Kojima being like, hey, bitch, I heard what you said.
He heard you was talking shit, yo.
Yeah, he heard I was just talking mad shit and decided to punish me. But the thing about this encounter is that it wasn't crazy difficult because none of them hit me. They were just standing there menacingly and just kind of running around me.
Sam,
and they got it.
Sam, cute fucking Patrick, they're just standing there menacingly.
I was thinking of that too. Hold on, here you go.
SpongeBob, I see him.
Where is he, Patrick?
At the intersection of Conch and Coral.
That's where I am. He's right on top of me, but I can't see him. What's he doing?
He's just standing there. menacingly. Get out of there, SpongeBob!
That's what I did. That's what I did.
Wee woo.
So I'm freaking out. I'm up by the incinerator, and I just start like a mad dash, like around them, and they're just kind of jumping in front of me and then diving, and then another one would jump up and like slam behind me, and it just freaked me out a lot. And I finally got, through it, and hated this game for doing that to me.
Jesus.
And I just ran because I only had like maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes left on my batteries. So, yeah, that's what I did. That's my fucking story.
Thanks for
Chris,
sharing.
how'd you do here?
Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cole.
I'm gonna sit down now.
Well, I feel like I kind of had a similar experience to you, Sam. I just the whole time I was booking it back, I was just taking the established routes that I had built up before. Like, I had all the roads built up, so that made that part of the game pretty easy. And this part of the game, all those guides that were telling you to like get through chapter 2 as quickly as possible and get to chapter 3. I did not read into any of that before I played this game, and I spent so much time in chapter 2 that I had all these like bridges and things built up, and the paths were really well developed. So terrain didn't give me a huge problem here. It was just watching out for like the BTs and like
well, so I remember, so Deadman kind of mentions, because again, I think it's very clear that you had like the best infrastructure in this game out of all four of us.
Oh yeah.
Deadman kind of mentions before you set off that the nature of the timefall has degraded like those structures a lot. Did that come through at all in your playthrough?
Oh yeah, like huge chunks of road were missing, but it was never like terribly inconvenient,
Well, I'm glad someone had fun in this part.
I just got the mental image of like Chris strolling along with an umbrella, and he looks down and he just sees like the three of us getting arrested. Like, it's good to have money.
Having a wonderful time.
Sam, cue it here. That's what, 3 SpongeBob references in as many minutes?
Yep.
Hi, welcome to Metal Gear Mondays, a SpongeBob fan podcast.
Christ.
Welcome to Bikini Bottom Mondays.
Welcome to Weenie Hut Junior Mondays.
Zach, do you have anything that you would like to add to what we have already discussed? Because I feel like your feelings on this are very have been very well documented so far. But
no, I think my biggest gripe is what's coming up next.
It sure is. But yeah, so all this shit is happening, and you're just like, I just need to get to this fucking. There's timefall. I just need to get to this fucking city.
Oh my god.
You get to Port Knot, and here's a cutscene. Tar fills the area, and one of those giant whale BTs pops out of the ground, and you have to fight it. There is no escape.
This happens right after the butthole dogs for me. I want you to understand how demoralized I was at this point.
Oh yeah, I feel bad for you, Cole.
So when this thing appeared and it finally fucking let you take control again, I paused the game. I put the controller down. My head went into my hands, and I said out loud, Kojima, you really know how to make something not fun. And I felt so beaten because, like I said, I didn't have any container repair spray. There were no generators, so I couldn't charge my fucking skeleton. So once that ran out about halfway through, that was it. And just like it was just like you guys said, it was just like a big old kick in the balls after getting fucking dragged heels first through a field of Tabasco sauce and broken glass.
Tabasco sauce and broken glass.
I mean, I think that's
so dramatic,
but it's the most accurate.
Yeah, don't kink But yeah, we have to fight this giant whale thing, and again, you have to fight it. There's no escape. It has those those blue barriers around the field, like when you were fighting the giant BT in Higgs's chapter. And you have to fucking fight this. So you're kind of walking along buildings. I was so fucking annoyed. Like, you walk all the way across this fucking map, and then this is the block they want to put in front of you. And the problem that I had with it was that, like, it wasn't like it. Obviously, it busted out of the ground at like places, but like it always, like, no matter what, would only ever bust out of the ground when I was on the ground, and it would come directly underneath me.
Yep.
And so it would always knock all of my stuff off. Like, it would damage my shit, and like, it was straightforward enough, but I was just mentally exhausted, and I was not happy about being forced to deal with it.
Agree. Shouts out to literally everyone who's like NPC threw me like multi rocket rocket launchers. Y'all are the real ones, and you're the only reason why I was able to beat this game.
Milk Boys represent.
Yeah,
Milk Boys.
And you've got the fucking Caramel Boys who were also a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah.
Oh
so
my god, I forgot about them.
I died in the middle of this battle because of those guys. Because like this fucker like shoots them at you like a gun.
Yeah.
And like if you're not Johnny on the spot with the mashing, they will get you.
Yeah.
Oh, you see, I would just, if they started coming, because so if they don't get you right off the bat when they shoots it at you, you can see them coming. So I'd like lay into the whale a bit, then I turn around and switch to an assault rifle, and you can just shoot these guys with the hematic rounds. They just disappear.
Well, see, that's the thing is like the one time that they ever like gave me trouble was the time when they shot directly at my fucking nuts. Like, it was just like they were right the fuck there, and I just couldn't, and they dragged me under, and I died, and so I had to.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just had to repatriate and come back and just fucking slog through it again.
Like, the fight isn't. I think this fight is easier than the giant BT in Edge Knot.
Yeah, because it's super simple.
Yeah.
It's just like
it's a tank.
Well,
This thing is a bullet sponge.
and also because
for
you're so beaten down by the journey, except for Chris, who apparently just strolled along the roads,
tiptoeing through the
entire
fucking
time.
walk in the park. This part of the game and Vietnam. Chris Hampton, 2019.
I don't want you to misunderstand me in thinking that like I think the game is simple and easy.
No.
It was certainly challenging, but I didn't have anything that was like out of the ordinary challenging.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because again, the challenge in this battle is time, right?
Yeah.
Because again, like we all just mentioned, it's a bullet sponge. It takes forever to kill, and if you're not like very careful, like it will fuck you up.
As an added layer of fucking stress on top of the fucking bunt cake of stress that this already was. My fucking crypto bio container was at 98% container damage.
Oh my god.
Yeah, mine was too. I was at the exact same place. I have a fucking story to tell about that fact.
Really?
When we're done with this, when we're done talking about the battle.
Because I didn't, like I said, it was a mad dash to the fucking to whatever timefall shelters had survived up to this point to use their spray, and those things will bring it back to 100%. But that was like I think the last one that I encountered was right after the BT field on the west side of the mountain, and after that it was just a straight, just dead sprint to Capital Knot, and that's why it was, for me it's like, fuck, I'm almost there. My own version of the fucking slow motion beach run was happening because I'm almost there, and then all of a sudden here comes the whale.
My problem was that, like, I think the path that I took only had one timefall shelter on it.
I had no timefall shelters.
Oh wow, my shit was beat the fuck up, and then like already by the time I get there, and then because I got fucking assaulted by this whale so much, it was at 98. It was about 98% when I finished the battle.
I think I delivered mine with 60% damage.
I don't remember what the actual damage was, but I just remember the container damage being at 98%.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with 98% container damage, which I guess doesn't matter for the story I'm about to tell. You guys are gonna like that. Yeah, and like I think my big problem with it too is that like the reason why it kept on fucking acing me so much was because again, if you stay on the buildings, you're relatively safe.
You stay on the buildings, Billy.
And you're relatively safe, but all of the milk boys are on the ground, and so you have to get off the building to go collect any supplies.
You don't actually.
No. How did you circumvent this? Because I could not.
I stayed on a building, but my building was relatively. It wasn't super tall, but it wasn't. It was high enough to the ground that I didn't have to deal with too many of the caramel boys. Like I could see them, and I just take pot shots at them. But I could
caramel boys.
Look over the side to see like a milk boy, and I'd hit like the "Hey, I need some help," and then they would just yeet like grenade launchers up to me.
Oh man, that would have made my life a whole fucking hell of a lot easier if I would have thought about that.
I just stayed on a building.
Oh, that's really neat.
One
I didn't
solitary
even
building.
think of using the call for help button.
That's what I did.
The thing is if you use, and we'll talk about this more, I'd say probably in the next episode. But for anyone who is currently playing the game or is going, like Chris, you're going through your second playthrough, I know. Mm-hmm. Hit the call button a lot. There's a lot of dialogue that you don't, just get. Like the game just doesn't give you. Yeah. Because like he would like look over the edge and be like, "Hey man, I really need some help," and then this dude would like pop up and throw you something.
Oh well, fuck me.
How great would it be if like you had like a 1 in like 1,000 chance where they throw it at you and it just fucking beans you right in the face and knocks you over?
But I mean that's honestly how I beat it. Just because I'd scream for help and then they would throw me. I had like literally 3 in a row the multi-rocket rocket launcher.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt like this boss fight was built around that whole ability to call for help.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I couldn't imagine having to do it without that.
Well, so I never hit the call for help button, but much like the giant BT fight, the milk boys would just pop up randomly.
Yeah, that's why I didn't use it, because they were just popping up to pop up, and so I was like, oh, they're already helping. I'll just deal with this.
I just got the idea because I saw them pop up and I was like, I wonder, and it worked. So,
but then the one time I did hit it, a milk Kermit popped up and went, "Good luck, Billy."
But yeah, so yeah, again, so even with that though, like it's still so exhausting, and I think it'd be less of a exhaustion and chore if he didn't have so much fucking health.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what Chris said, he's a bullet sponge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he looked like the boss fight kind of reminded me of those fish in Breath of the Wild in the desert.
Oh yeah, or the they're like the seals, right? Or like the walrus looking things.
You ride on those things. I'm talking about the big fish that you have to throw bombs in the mouth of.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the way the fish would like jump up out of the ground.
Yeah,
in that way.
You know what this boss fight made me feel like? It made me want to go. It made me want to go and play Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it was very Shadow of the Colossus, but like without the charm of Shadow of the Colossus,
without the sweeping orchestral music that actually made you want to keep going.
Yeah, the genocidal charm of Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to
say that for anyone who hasn't played Shadow of the Colossus, it's a game that's been out for over a decade. You should have already played it by now.
Well, I think it's been out a lot longer than that.
With multiple re-releases. Anyway. So my story is that after I killed this thing, so of course my container was at 98% damage. After Whale was down, you know how like if Sam gets really exhausted, he'll kind of like stumble a little bit? Mm-hmm. He did this, right? Except he actually fell over onto his back, breaking the container.
No.
Oh my god.
Giving me a game over.
No.
Because it was an essential 100%. I got a game over because he fell and broke the container the full way.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I would have fucking quit.
Was livid.
I would be going to GameStop to buy a new controller.
I legitimately, it happened, and I'm not kidding. I sat in my room looking at my TV in silence for 5 fucking minutes. I was so pissed. And
oh my God.
I turned it off. I was just like, I can't fucking look at this game right now. I cannot look at it. I cannot.
Sam, I
at that moment it was
about this before. I think you texted me like right after it happened.
Yeah, I said I was going to save it for the show because it's such like a fucking buck wild story. I turned that game off and I did not play it again for like another 3 days because I was so fucking pissed. I was so fucking mad.
That is terrible.
And thankfully, when I picked it back up again, I hit resume. It was right after the fight with the whale, but it was still at 98%. So I was like, "Fuck it, it's okay." I get to Port Knot. You have to take this now. You're right outside of Port Knot, and you have to take it. I get there, right, and I get a phone call from a friend of mine, and we're talking for a second, and I forget to pause the game. He stumbles again and breaks it again.
Oh my God.
Inside of the distribution center. I wasn't as mad that time because I knew it would have been okay, and it picked me up right at the fucking terminal inside of Port Knot. But it happened twice to me. But the first time I was madder and fucking funny. I could have killed somebody. I really could have. I could have if Hideo Kojima had been in my room with me at that moment, I would have punched him in the fucking face.
I've definitely felt that before.
Well, so did you
Final
guys
Fantasy X?
You guys remember the mission where you have to hand carry the fucking chiral hourglass all the way to what's her name?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that mission that object is so fragile that say you put it down and it just falls over, it'll break, and that'll be the end of that mission.
Mm-hmm. Chris, you said you had that feeling with Final Fantasy?
Yeah, Final Fantasy X.
Tell me about it.
Part where you have to ram the ship into Sin.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was also kind of like a bullet sponge type scenario. He had a big old chunk in health bar. And I wasn't very good at RPGs back then. So I went in woefully unprepared and ended up getting myself stuck because you can't back out of this fight at this save point. So I just couldn't beat the game. And I quit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you beaten it since? Have you ever...
No.
Sounds like me as a kid against the spider boss in Metroid Fusion.
Mm. Can you tell us a little bit more about Metroid Fusion, Zach?
Oh my God.
No, don't. No, please don't. Anyway.
What thing would that be, Sam? This is a Death Stranding podcast.
I don't think I was on the Patriot Club. That joke doesn't make any sense to anyone who doesn't listen to the Patriot Club.
Oh, that's right. That was a Patriot Club one.
Join the Patreon. Get into the Discord.
Patreon.
Get into the Patreon.
Patreon.com/Metal Gear Mondays. Yeah, we're here.
Do it, Billy.
Let's go. But yeah, so you take it to Port Knot, and you can't turn. I thought you had to turn in the mission at Port Knot. I did not realize you had to walk it directly to the hospital building. So if you remember at the beginning of the game, when you were instructed to take morphine. What was it? It was morphine to the hospital where Bridget was. You have to go to the same place and take these cryptobites to Fragile in that building.
Sam, that gives me such a warm and fuzzy because I did the same thing. I went to the distribution center and I was like, why can't it? Mm-hmm. Oh, and I was like, well, it's a good thing no one else is around to know what I just did.
Yeah, you have to, because I took it there and I was like, what the fuck? And I looked at the map and I was like, oh, fuck, I have to walk it over here. Okay. And then I did, and it was fine. But yeah, you get there and Sam gets in. And he discovers, through people that are talking around, that Fragile is in a coma, but that if she gets some cryptobites, everything should be okay. And that is where we're going to leave it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. That was, a lot of, really fucking buck wild shit. A lot of walking. A lot of walking. And yeah, next week, if you can believe it, we're gonna fucking wrap up the game. We're gonna talk episode 13 and 14, and we're gonna call it some coverage.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we're gonna send us away for the week, and thank you guys for joining us. We have some bookkeeping stuff to talk about again. We mentioned last week that we are going to be doing an outer op about Death Stranding. We are going to be recording it on the 16th of December, which means that we need your responses by end of day December 15th. That's a Sunday.
Send
them in. Sunday. We want to hear what you guys think of Death Stranding, like all of it. What you thought about the mechanics, the story, what you expected versus what you got versus what you like any thoughts you have on Death Stranding. We want to hear them. You can
it's gonna be like
email
a
us at contact
hour long episode.
Yeah, probably it's gonna be probably the longest one that we do for this. No, even if it is, we want to hear fucking everything, and we're gonna do it. So email us contact at metalgearmondays.com, or you can go to metalgearmondays.com/contact. We have a form there you can fill out, and that'll get to us. So check all of that out. Please send your stuff in. We would love to hear from you. You can, like I said, you can go to metalgearmondays.com. That's where literally everything we have is. Facebook /Metal Gear Mondays, Twitter at Metal Gear Monday, Instagram Metal Gear Mondays, fucking all the social media. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio and Spotify and all the other podcast apps. Please head to those places. If they let you review podcasts, review us. Leave us a line and help us out there. We would love to hear those and hear from you guys. So peep that. You can go to Patreon, like we mentioned earlier, patreon.com/Metal Gear Mondays. As little as $1 is going to get you into our private Discord, where listeners just like you come and talk about stuff that's Metal Gear, that's Death Stranding, that's fucking TV shows, that's fucking movies, that's fucking...
We got pictures of dogs. What more do you people want?
We got pictures of dogs, my dude.
Oh,
like,
my
what
God.
are you doing?
We're sharing memes and dog photos. Come on now.
We got sick deals.
Yeah, we did
deals.
We did just get some sick deals in there for right in time for the holidays.
Mm-hmm. So if you're not in there, $1, man. And then I mentioned earlier, we have a special podcast on for patrons called the Patriot Club. It's a completely separate podcast that we just talk about. We do talk about like Metal Gear and Death Stranding, like Kojima stuff sometimes, but it's really just a fucking free for all where we just talk about whatever the fuck.
A little bit more fast and loose in this one.
Yeah, a little bit more fast, a little bit more loose.
If you can believe it.
Yeah, a little bit more fast, a little bit more loose. It's a little bit more bite-sized comparatively. It's typically only around an hour long, and it's a fun little show. We enjoy doing it, and we enjoy it. So check that out. And then we've also got a bunch of other perks at various tiers that you can take a look at. We just kind of restructured our tiers a little bit recently, so take a look at those and see what you like, and come on in.
Take your shoes off, stay a while.
Speaking of gifts, we'll be doing something a little special, won't we?
We are. The other thing that we're going to be doing on our outer op that we're gonna talk about is we usually have topics. Which another thing is that we're going to be putting a post on our Patreon to gather
topic ideas.
Like topic ideas that you want us to discuss on the outer op. So we're gonna look at those as well. But one of the things that we will be doing on the outer op is a little gift exchange. We drew random names for our gift exchange, and we're each going to open the presents that we got each other on air. And yeah, maybe if whoever had Zach's thing can get it to Moonbase Alpha in time, but
yeah, hopefully
we'll see. The processing over at Moonbase Alpha is a little weird, so we'll see.
Well, because Amazon doesn't ship up here.
Really?
Yeah, we have to use DHL exclusively.
Fucking DHL. Fucking DHL.
And they only have steam-powered rockets.
I will tell you, for my job, sometimes I do have to send things to like Europe or Asia for certain like various reasons, and like I have to use DHL every time, and it's just like, ugh, why?
You ever had to fucking plug in a DHL tracking number? Holy shit, it's like doing a math problem.
This episode of Metal Gear Monday is brought to you by DHL. But yeah, that's just check out all of those things and send your things in and just be cool, dude.
Yeah.
Just do whatever.
Be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other. Cole, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at I am Cole Duncan, and you can find me on Instagram at Subterranean Homesick Brews.
What about you, Mr. Zach James?
You find me on Instagram at author Zach James. I also just re-got into Twitter, also at author Zach James. If you want to find me on PlayStation Network, I'm Maverick Rooster, capital M, capital R. And I also get messages fairly quickly by messenger pigeon.
Can they breathe on Moonbase?
Yeah, there's little like helmets that you can put on them.
They're
and
adorable.
wing packs. Yeah, they're really cute.
Aww, cute.
I named mine.
Except for when the moon spiders get them, then it's
oh yeah, that's problematic. Yeah.
It's messy.
Man, sucks to suck, I guess. Before we move on to Chris, Cole, what is your PlayStation? I forgot to.
Oh yeah, same as Twitter. I am Cole Duncan.
Nice, Chris. Where can they find you on the internet?
Let's see. Instagram and Twitter are Chris Hampton II. That's Chris Hampton II. And my
for those not knowing.
Yeah, I'm number 2. And then PlayStation Network and also now Xbox are both.
Oh no, he betrayed.
He dark side.
So I got this through sick deals on our Patreon or Discord. And I was just doing the math of if I get this in Games Pass, then I have a dedicated Metal Gear Solid 3 machine in my bedroom.
Perfect. Which, for the record, as we're recording this, it's the PlayStation's 25th anniversary, and he got an Xbox.
Yeah.
So
I'm a bad boyfriend.
Heresy. You're a bad boyfriend. When he told us this story earlier, he led with, "I feel like a bad boyfriend." We were just like, "What?
Wait, what? What?"
No.
Just,
Your boy's Chris, single. What are those? What's that name on there?
Proto Dude. So it's capital P ROTO, and then Dude is capital DDE, like Proto Man, from Mega Man.
Except dude.
Yes. But make it Jeff Bridges.
Yes.
But make it Jeff Bridges. I'm a dude, he's a dude, she's a dude, and we're all dudes here.
No. I love orange soda.
Cal loves orange soda.
I do.
And you can find me on the internet on Twitter at Sanjul. That's SANJUUL. And you can also find me on YouTube at bit.ly/Sam Does a Thing. Please subscribe so I can make my YouTube channel have a name. I would like that a lot. And also PlayStation at Deadpool Alpha. Yeah. And I think that is about it, friends. We're reaching the end of our journey. Next week will be the last episode we do on Death Stranding, the game coverage at least. And started doing this podcast with you boys. This is a whole new crew, whole new strands, whole new world with you.
Mm-hmm.
Over, sideways, and under on a magic carpet ride. And I just feel like because of all this stuff, we've been through so much together. I just feel like we have like a connection or something.
Like a strand?
Like a strand.
God,
like a strand.
I just hate whales now. I love you guys, but I hate whales.
I hate whales. I hate baseball.
Good night, everybody.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
I'll be on the metaphor. Come find me.
Oh my god. I brought you a fucking metaphor. video game anymore, guys. I just can't do it.
I feel you and I might have like a connection. Something.
I just ordered my Secret Santa's gift.
Oh, yeah?
Nice.
Yep.
Zach named the group Billy's.
Billy's.
Billy's. All I can say is that one of you is getting 10,000 live ladybugs.
Hell yeah.
Well, I know who Zach got.
Ladybird,
no! Butterfree!
Butterfree!
Oh.